Hi everyone, I'm going to do a short overview on the most successful lures I've used during the past year of fishing for bass from banks, and recommend some lures to you if you are new to bass fishing. I've only been fishing for bass for a year, from spring to early fall. During that time, I tried different lures and read some books and magazine articles on lures, and after a year of fishing, I've come up with a small group of lures that have been effective in catching bass here in Indiana. I'm located in the Midwest, Indiana, and I think the general consensus is that bass fishing in Indiana is not all that great. So I think if I can catch bass here in Indiana on some lures, I know you can definitely catch a bass using these lures. With that in mind, and also I'm predominantly a bank fisherman, here are my favorite lures that worked, and all of these I highly recommend for bank fishing for bass. And here it is, my number one bass catching lure and my number one recommendation, a plastic worm. And that's probably not a surprise to many of you. This simple thing, along with other plastic worms, has been my number one bass catching lure. This is the 5-inch Yum Dinger made by Yum in watermelon seed color, and it is my number one lure and plastic worm. I always Texas rigged it using a 3/16 or 1/8 bullet weight and a 2/0 or 3/0 worm hook or wide gap hook. This thing is simple but very effective. I don't know what it is about Yum plastic worms, but they definitely work and work very well. They are supposed to have the Yum F2 attractant in them. I become a fan of Yum worms after one season of fishing and highly recommend them, particularly the Yum Dinger. Close behind the Yum Dinger is this worm, the Berkley Power Worm, in a dark purple color. This is the 7-inch electric grape color worm. Like the Yum worm, this thing works very well. This worm is scented with Berkley's Power Bait formula. I would Texas rig this worm using a 2/0 or 3/0 hook. Usually when I got to the spot I wanted to fish, I would start by using the Yum worm, and then 10 or so minutes later I would move to this worm. I didn't catch bass every time I fished, but I did catch a good number of them over the spring and summer, and more times than not I was using these two worms, and like the Yum worm, I highly recommend it. The nice thing about using these two worms is that you can offer bass something different. The Yum is a little thicker and shorter. The Power Worm is thinner and longer. One is greenish color and one is purple color. It's a nice combination to try when you are bank fishing. Remember, you don't have to use the exact same colors as these. You should pick a color you think will work and try it out and experiment with it. And after you find a color that works, keep using it and buy different kinds of worms that will work when your favorite worms will not work. Build up a collection of worms. And now for the third plastic lure I used, the Lizard. I used the Lizard most of the spring and into summer. It caught a good number of bass in the spring and early summer, but it seemed to lose its effectiveness as the summer went on. As the summer progressed, I used it less and less, but I still consider it a very good bass catching lure. It's these three soft plastics, the Yum, the Berkley, and the Lizard, that are my three top bass catching lures. I highly recommend these three. But I have to admit, I recommend almost all plastic worms and lizards because they are the best bass catching lures in existence. To be brutally honest, almost any kind of 4-inch to 7.5-inch worm is great for all-around bass fishing from banks. The important thing is finding the right worm and right color and building off that. Here are a few reasons why I enjoy using plastic worms and soft plastics. First, they work. They are considered a high percentage lure. Jigs, spinnerbaits, and crankbaits are low percentage lures. What that means is that you will probably catch more bass throughout the whole fishing season using plastic worms than anything else besides live bait. Second, they are affordable. You can buy a bag of Yum worms at the local Walmart for $3 plus tax. To me, that is a heck of a good deal. Third, if you Texas rig it, then you can cast one over and over again, and there's a good chance you will not get hung up and lose the worm. Of course, you are going to eventually get worms snagged, but would you rather snag a worm or a $5 or $12 crankbait? It's a mystery why bass love plastic worms so much, but the fact that they do love plastic worms is no secret. They are the best all-around bass catching lures ever made. So there we go. Plastic worms and a 2/0 or 3/0 hook and bullet weights, and we can catch bass on the banks throughout the spring and summer. And we don't need any other lures. Texas rigged plastic worms are the best bank fishing lures for bass you can use over a full season. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.